Up next, Roland visits Pasha with the artifact he received from Sean. The first thing he wants to know about is the progress of the secret metal chamber's construction, which he had assigned to Celine. Pasha delivers good news that everything is complete except for the elevator. At the moment, Celine is inside the chamber, and Pasha offers to take him there. For context, Celine is considered the best in the business when it comes to constructing magical artifacts. She's so obsessed with her craft that she was the first witch to volunteer to merge with that alien-like body. After transforming, her skills improved exponentially thanks to the freedom that body granted her. Back in the day, she would constantly complain about not having enough hands for multitasking and about tiring too easily. Now she has transcended such human limitations. At the end of the corridor lies a massive subterranean passage descending straight down. Just staring into this bottomless pit makes Nightingale uneasy, wondering if there's really no other way to go down. Pasha reassures her that the elevator will be installed in the coming days. For now, she herself will be responsible for taking them down. Trusting her, both the king and the women climb onto Pasha, who glides over the pit's surface as if riding waves. The descent ends with the smoothest landing possible. Inside, they encounter another reinforced door. Seeing the grandeur of the place, Roland thinks that if they were to lose the Divine Will War, this chamber might one day become ancient ruins after 100 years. But Pasha is confident of their victory, and Roland shares the same belief. Deeper inside, Celine opens the door upon hearing Pasha's voice. Without hesitation, Roland presents the ancient treasure he wants her to inspect. In the refined chamber, Celine eagerly asks Roland's opinion on the construction. Yet she's puzzled why they went to such extremes just to block a supposed curse Roland mentioned. If it were merely light, ordinary barriers should have been enough. But Roland refuses to take chances. If his assessment is correct, the artifact emits a kind of light invisible to the naked eye, capable of penetrating ordinary walls. By the way, the curse he speaks of is most likely nuclear radiation. This is exactly why he insists Celine follow his instructions meticulously if they truly intend to study the artifact. With that, they begin the tests. While Roland and the others wait outside, Celine holds the artifact in her bare hands, with the radioactive coin placed on the table. The artifact begins reacting to the coin, though not in the way she expected. According to Sean, when Lorenzo touched it, the artifact had emitted light. But now Celine notices something new about the cube. It appears hollow inside, with cracks all over, suggesting it's merely a container. There's also a small opening, likely meant for a key to unlock it. She strongly suspects the coin is that key. Though not entirely certain, there's a chance the cube might react, so they must brace themselves for the worst. As soon as she inserts the coin, a beam of light bursts out. Before anyone can grasp what's happening, the scene shifts to Roland's office. After thorough research, it's revealed that the ancient treasure they had been so excited about is nothing more than a device intended for torturing captives. Still, one thing is clear. This relic wasn't crafted by ordinary humans incapable of perceiving energy electrons with the naked eye. Only a civilization deeply reliant on radioactive elements could have created it. The cube could release energetic particles once activated by enriched radioactive material. As for why its energy beam only traveled 100 meters, it was likely due to insufficient magical power. Suddenly, a knight interrupts, delivering another experiment report from the Tequila Witches. This report details the results of their latest test. They discovered that different animals showed varying tolerance levels to radiation. The shocking part came when they observed that after 5 minutes of exposure, the radiation began boiling water in a nearby container. If prolonged, the fish inside would have been cooked alive. Realizing they could use the cube's properties to boil water, Roland contacts Celine and instructs her not to dismantle it. After the call, he orders Nightingale to take him to the third border city immediately. She grabs His Majesty and drags him through her mist. Once they arrive, the poor king ends up puking rainbows thanks to the motion sickness from the journey. As soon as he notices Celine, he asks if she can make more of these cubes. The woman confirms that she can, though she doesn't understand why Roland is so interested in what seems like a piece of junk. But Roland believes it's far from junk. In fact, this thing could revolutionize the entire industrialization process. Normally, producing steam requires massive amounts of fuel, but if they can replace fuel with magic cubes, they could achieve an efficiency never thought possible. Celine thinks about it before answering that she can't replicate the cube without thoroughly analyzing its structural integrity. So if she isn't allowed to dismantle it, there's little she can do. Turns out Roland isn't restricting her from dismantling it. He simply wants her to handle it carefully and dismantle it in a methodical manner for replication, rather than treating it like trash. He's truly rooting for her to replicate it once she's done with her research and development. Still, Celine can't make any promises for now since she doesn't know how complex the cube really is. Even so, she's confident she'll eventually surprise him. For the moment, the only positive discovery is that the cube doesn't require magic to function, making replication much easier. However, there's still another major challenge: acquiring the necessary materials to produce it. Celine's R&D so far has revealed that the relic isn't made of stone. She can't precisely identify the material used. One bold theory is that it's crafted from the bones of that ancient civilization, or some other unknown solid substance. To find out, she'll need a large number of samples from the temple where the relic was found. But since the cursed temple was stripped clean years ago, retrieving the relevant materials will be a long shot. Not to mention, she can't guarantee that substitute materials would work the same way as the originals. Speaking of materials, Roland suddenly recalls something. He has a hunch where they might be able to find them. The place he's thinking of has likely changed a lot over the years. But if the murals in the temple were accurate, he's confident they might uncover something there. The scene then cuts to two explorers stumbling across an uncharted tunnel filled with lush green plants. It's unusual because there's no sunlight here to sustain them. Purplehead suggests retreating for now as this place feels unsettling, but his brown-haired friend is excited to explore further. By now, Purplehead curses his rotten luck. He regrets ever coming here. All this talk about exploring mysterious ruins feels absurd. His companion even brought diving suits, which they used to cross the waters and reach this underwater site. Suddenly, they notice beautiful flowers blooming in this creepy cavern. Purplehead recognizes the plant. It's the divine messenger flower. They weren't rare in the past, but now they're scarce. Legends say the three gods' messenger flowers grow along the coast like a purple ribbon. It was considered the most beautiful flower in the southernmost region. Since that region is now nothing but desert, it's fascinating to learn such flowers once thrived there. Purplehead explains that the south wasn't always a desert. On the contrary, it was once covered with endless forests, grasslands, and rivers, much like the north. With the disappearance of the three gods' messengers, the land gradually turned into the barren wasteland it is today. As for this peculiar flower, it was believed the divine messenger flower could never be moved once rooted. That's partly why so few exist in modern oases. This is also why the flower was thought to have gone extinct long ago. Its survival here is thanks to the underground cavity, which remained untouched by desertification. For Purplehead, walking through this cavern feels like stepping into an oasis of the past. As they continue, Purplehead suddenly trips over something, and that spot begins to glow. At first, they assume they've triggered a trap, but to their surprise, they've struck gold. Beneath their feet lies a strange, symbol-carved plate that lights up whenever stepped on. Brownhead goes wild, stomping on it repeatedly to watch the glowing effect. To him, this treasure could easily earn them the honorary explorer title from Roland Wimbledon. Purplehead, however, isn't thrilled. Moving such a massive object would be nearly impossible. Judging by the exposed section, he can tell the structure is enormous. Brownhead refuses to lose hope, insisting that if they search more, they'll find another exit, or more treasures. As they move deeper, they discover the entire cavern is filled with these giant glowing plates. After some distance, they stumble upon a huge stack of carved stone slabs marked with similar designs. Brownhead can barely contain his excitement, convinced they've hit the jackpot. But Purplehead gets an ominous feeling. He thinks leaving this place would be wiser. As expected, Brownhead opposes him. To him, this is the kind of discovery even legendary explorers like Thunder have probably never encountered. Purplehead argues that they can always return later. For now, the smarter move is to regroup with the other Curious Society members waiting outside. At last, Brownhead reluctantly agrees, but he refuses to leave without a souvenir. Drawing his sword, he wedges it into one of the stone tablets to break off a fragment he can pocket. As he digs, the tablet's glow grows brighter and brighter. Sensing something's wrong, Purplehead warns him not to shatter it too much, urging him to leave with just the piece he's carved out. But Brownhead grows greedy and ignores his friend's warning. That's when the creepy rustling sounds begin, sounds that don't feel welcoming at all. Finally, the threat that had been haunting them comes into view, a giant scorpion. Purplehead instantly warns his idiot friend not to move at any cost. As the scorpion creeps closer, Purplehead seizes an opening and quickly slices off its poisonous tail along with its claws. His foolish friend lights up like a kid in a candy store, impressed beyond belief. He had expected no less from the Mojin people, who make their living hunting such creatures. But Purplehead quickly cautions him to hold his excitement, because the real danger still lingers. The sounds they heard earlier didn't come from a desert scorpion. Soon, a massive scorpion emerges, forcing them to run in the opposite direction. They barely manage to escape, and 5 days pass since that terrifying encounter. As Purplehead rests in bed, his same foolish friend barges in with good news. Their discovery has caught the king's attention, and Roland himself wants to see them. Naturally, Purplehead is stunned, while his friend happily explains that His Majesty has already dispatched a ship to fetch them. It should arrive at Festivity Port within 2 days. We then cut to Roland, reviewing promising reports on Project Torch's progress. After entering May, the Devils have offered little resistance, and the railway line steadily advances toward Tequila. At this pace, Roland is confident the Holy City will be within striking range by mid-June. He's pleased that the project is already 10 days ahead of schedule, but his focus soon shifts to another concern, the Sky-Sea realm. From what he can gather, the Devils seem overwhelmed by it, struggling to balance that conflict with their war against Neverwinter. As Roland ponders this, Nightingale appears, giving him a well-deserved massage. Suddenly, an ominous aura invades the office, startling him. Well, it's his sister, absolutely losing her temper. Roland already knows why she's furious, and we quickly find out as she rants about the long-overdue airplane prototype he promised her. The deadline has long passed, and she won't stop until her brother delivers. The poor guy notes how rarely she calls him brother, usually only when others are around, or when she's annoyed. Still, Roland musters the courage to respond. The prototype hasn't been finalized yet, since Anna and Soraya are still working on producing the necessary parts. He also mentions that major battles on the front lines delayed progress on her project. This softens her mood a little. Roland goes on, revealing that the blueprints are complete, but he can't bring the idea to life alone. The girl insists she wants the plane ready as soon as possible, so she isn't left behind by the Sky Knights. Roland assures her that the main body of the aircraft is essentially complete, with only auxiliary parts left to install. Hearing this, the girl lights up like a child at the mention of candy, realizing the aircraft's body is already assembled. As for the auxiliary parts, she argues it should still fly without them. Hesitantly, Roland admits that technically it can fly, but unlike their other aircraft, testing it won't be easy. If technical failure occurs, even Wendy might not be able to help. Despite the risks, Tilly is determined to take her first flight. Left with no choice, Roland agrees to fulfill her demands. He contacts the airfield to prepare the aircraft. Beforehand, he warns her to abandon the plane at the first sign of trouble. The girl agrees, brimming with a childlike excitement Roland has rarely seen in her. A short while later, they arrive at the airfield. The hangar doors open, revealing a sleek, beautiful machine designed specifically for her. As for this aircraft's name, Roland has named it Unicorn. Tilly instantly loves the name, stepping forward to lay her hands on it. She notices an empty compartment in the cockpit, the spot where the auxiliary parts should have gone. Roland confirms this, explaining those parts were meant to display critical parameters like speed and altitude, things a pilot should never overlook. In the past, Wendy managed speed and altitude with her magic, so such instruments weren't necessary. But to truly fly on her own strength, Tilly must constantly monitor them. She tries to reassure her worried brother, reminding him that she's the best when it comes to flying. Once preparations are complete, she climbs into the cockpit. The operator cranks the engine to life. To Roland, the hand crank system feels nostalgic, like one of his old childhood toys. Still, he plans to replace it with a self-start system once mass production begins. As soon as the engine roars, Tilly takes off soaring into the skies in her own plane. Naturally, Nightingale feels uneasy watching her, but Roland reminds her that Tilly carries a flight magic stone. Still, he silently worries whether that stone will be enough at such high altitudes. Nightingale, meanwhile, is feeling this profound emotion after seeing this new invention. She may have seen the internals of combustion engines many times, but every time she sees one working, she feels fascinated how amalgamation of a bunch of metal parts is helping them do so much. To think that humans can really fly like birds without any magic sounds insane. It's nothing like magic, just a combination of wood and metal. She hopes to fly one day just like this in the future. With a bright smile, Roland gives her the confidence she needs, making the woman smile back and hug him out of compassion. After 30 minutes of flight, the plane successfully lands. It seems Tilly had the time of her life inside this thing. Her excited face is proof enough. With just one flight, she can already tell it's nothing compared to the earlier prototypes. This machine offers far more freedom in handling, making agile maneuvers possible unlike the previous designs. If she had to summarize her experience, she would say it felt like having a conscious mind inside a body she could control at will. Roland is startled that she's praising so highly a product still unfinished. Still, he's glad she had fun and wants to end the day on a good note. But the evil, sinister smile Tilly is giving makes it clear she has other intentions. As far as she's concerned, 30 minutes is far too little, and she wants to experience this beast a bit longer. She understands Roland has a lot on his plate, so he can leave and take care of his work. As for her, she's staying here and plans to take a few more flights. With Tilly enjoying a few more flights, Roland and Nightingale head on their way. The scene then shifts back to Third Border City. Turns out Roland's guess was correct. The material discovered in the Endless Cape can indeed be used to create the magic cube. It's not exactly the same, but the properties are similar enough to make it usable. She can start replication as soon as she has enough material. Roland curiously asks how much is needed, to which she informs him that at least a few thousand. Roland isn't sure if that's doable. To give perspective, excavating a few thousand of those slabs would fill the entire floor of this room. Regardless, he plans to continue excavating the Cape ruins as soon as possible. For now, he wants to learn more about the stone sample he brought back. I have a feeling that it's likely the same sample those two guys had retrieved from that underground cavity. As it turns out, she doesn't yet know much about it. One thing she can assure him of is that the light it emits hasn't harmed any animals. This means the glow is harmless. Nothing radioactive as Roland had feared. She even had Lucia break the stone down to study its composition. It turns out the stone mainly consists of sand. She can't exactly explain what it is, but finds it fascinating. It may look like stone or a large grain of sand, but it's flexible and glows when compressed. It's one of the strangest things she has seen in this world. Roland, however, doesn't share the same excitement. Matter's properties depend on both its elements and structure, and the only reason they find it strange is that they know so little about it. Celine agrees with His Majesty. Ever since she brought back those books from the dream world, she has gained a completely new perspective. In fact, she feels the composition of living beings is even more complex and far stranger than this peculiar stone. From what she has gathered from the books, everything is just made up of elements: carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, and so on. Even though trees and humans share the same elements, humans can laugh, cry, and think, things trees cannot do. Her observation suddenly reminds him of something shocking. Maybe, just maybe, the so-called steles they found in the ruins aren't memorials at all, but the stick figures themselves. If the stick figures are the steles, then what they are holding are actually the bodies of these figures carved everywhere. Celine finds it hard to believe that those glowing steles are literally living beings like anyone else. Still, she doesn't believe the blocks have consciousness or can move on their own. In fact, they don't have any concrete evidence to make such conclusions yet. So the best thing to do is to continue exploring. They will eventually find the answers they seek. Speaking of which, she recalls some tests she conducted on the steles' luminescence, but apparently the results weren't satisfactory. The harder you squeezed the stones, the brighter they became, but mostly, the brightness depended on the stone's size and volume. From this little experiment, Roland suddenly realizes something worth noting. But before we learn what that is, we cut to Iron Axe sailing in his massive ship with his large crew. Inside the cabin, Thunder is busy boosting his men's morale before they enter the notorious Shadow Sea and explore the archipelago. That location constantly shifts, and heavy fog rolls in during low tide, so they must keep their guard up at all times. Meanwhile, Camilla is also present. Watching this ragtag group of adventurers, she can't help but remember the First Army fondly. They were leagues ahead in discipline. Their crisp and energetic formations still linger in her mind. Outside, she sees Joan. Seeing her, Camilla recalls how the girl had enjoyed her time with the witches of Neverwinter, even making a few friends. By now, Camilla starts questioning herself, feeling insecure that maybe it's her fault she barely gets along with people. As she's lost in thought, Margaret interrupts, guessing from her expression that she seems in a bad mood. Naturally, Camilla denies it. To ease her mind, Margaret suggests she just sit back and enjoy the beauty of the sea instead of worrying. The others will handle everything. She doesn't need to burn herself out. As expected, Camilla is critical by nature, and leaving everything to others feels like putting her life in their hands. Margaret assures her that Thunder can be trusted. While her sense of responsibility is admirable, sometimes one must loosen up and learn to trust others too. If she keeps herself tense all the time, it wouldn't be surprising if she went mad after spending so long at sea. The men may be rough, but they're the best at what they do. Naturally, Camilla insists she never said otherwise. Margaret knows that, but she also knows Camilla definitely thought it. After all, she's very familiar with how nobles think. She doesn't mind though. Everyone is prejudiced in some way or another, even herself. Just as she thinks of the Mojin people as barbarians, they think the same of her. The only person she has met so far who shows no prejudice toward race is Roland Wimbledon. Suddenly, they notice the tide going out, revealing stone dunes. Soon enough, an entire mountain comes into view. Naturally, Camilla is in awe, watching the strange nature of the Shadow Sea. Suddenly, the ship begins rocking too much, causing the noblewoman distress. Margaret reassures her that the engines have been shut down. The only way to navigate this treacherous pathway is to slow down. The natural speed at which the ship is sliding on the water is already more than enough. Of course, Camilla is once again flabbergasted, watching as they descend as if downhill. Margaret shares the same reaction, but there is no other way to enter this place. This is exactly why Thunder feels so compelled to explore the mystery behind it all. Just then, Joan notices fish swimming beneath them, but thankfully they aren't hostile. In fact, the fish form a special waterway that guides them down to their destination. I don't know about you, but this feels nostalgic. It's the same phenomenon Thunder witnessed the first time he came here with Tilly. Anyhow, Joan points ahead, reminding everyone that as long as they follow the Ghost Shadow Red River, her fancy way of describing the red fish, they'll reach the triangular tower ruins. She recalls Princess Tilly mentioning a strange device inside those ruins, something like a telescope. But it's no ordinary telescope. It can reveal a vast continent never seen before, and figuring out the mystery behind that land is the ultimate goal of this expedition. As they approach their destination, all the passengers gather on the deck, much to Thunder's surprise. He had assumed most would chicken out and hide. Back to business, he points out that they haven't encountered a single sea ghost yet, which is a good sign. They should capitalize on this chance and not delay the mission. Low tide will only last until evening, so they need to go deep into the seabed before then. If they fail to find anything valuable, they'll have to retreat before the tide returns, or risk being trapped in the archipelago. Turning to the witches, he places the rest of the responsibility on them. Joan is confident, while Camilla is once again complaining. Though she uses telepathy, she doesn't want these idiots speaking aloud or interrupting her concentration. With Thunder silencing the crew, Joan and Camilla begin their work. Once Camilla connects her mind with the sea girl, Joan dives deep into the ocean. After a while, Thunder inquires about the situation. So far, everything seems fine. Joan has gone down about 50 meters. From what she can see, the stone pillars don't appear to be thickening, nor do the reefs. She doesn't see any seabed or seamounts. Soon, Joan descends past 100 meters. Light barely reaches that depth, but it's still bright enough to see. The stone pillars and reefs stretch endlessly, with no sign of a bottom. Camilla is seriously shocked at how far these reefs extend. Thunder, however, isn't too surprised. He's used to the unexpected nature of the sea. He recalls once seeing a weather rock mountain in Wolfheart Kingdom. They were somewhat similar to what they're seeing now, except those weren't nearly as slender as these reefs. Suddenly, Joan notices something startling. She feels wind blowing underwater, much to Camilla's disbelief. Even Thunder and his crew are surprised. The sea girl adds that she can't feel the wind physically, but she can hear it. Determined to get to the bottom of this, quite literally and figuratively, she dives deeper. They pass 200 meters, and the wind grows stronger, but nothing changes in her surroundings. Eventually, they reach 400 meters, and it's pitch black now. Since Joan doesn't need light to see, she continues. Before she can descend further, however, the rope tying her to the ship runs out. Even after reaching over 800 meters, the pillars keep going, and still, no seabed is in sight. Finally, they make a shocking discovery. These stone pillars are floating in the water, with no seabed beneath to support them. If Joan is telling the truth, that means the entire island is literally floating on the sea, something Thunder struggles to comprehend. The others also find it impossible. Even if an island could float, how could it remain stationary without anchors or support? The ocean currents alone should have washed the Shadow Islands away long ago. Camilla then drops another bizarre detail. Some of the pillars continue stretching downward. To investigate further, Joan dives deeper. But suddenly, she feels something strange, her fingers stretching out on their own. Then she notices a fish swimming further into the depths. And that fish also is being stretched as it gets further in depth. The poor girl soon realizes she's being sucked down as well. She tries paddling as hard as she can, but it's useless. Eventually, she's pulled inside, and Camilla loses her telepathic connection with her. The sea is pitch black, and no one knows what happens in the next few moments. Joan sees a massive hole below and falls through it, only to plunge back into the ocean again. Her mind flashes with images of her beloved friends from the past few months. Fueled by her desire to reunite with them, she forces herself forward. Before we learn more, the scene cuts to Sylvie riding atop Maggie. They're in the middle of a battle against the devils. As Sylvie guides the troops, she suddenly spots a high-tier devil, also known as a demon slayer, rushing toward her at incredible speed. She quickly commands Maggie to retreat. Seeing the witches flee, the demon slayer halts midair. At that moment, a barrage of fireballs rains down on him. He dodges, but the devils on the ground take the brunt of it. Naturally, the demon slayer looks furious, so much so that even Sylvie can feel the intensity of his aura. Then, for some unknown reason, the demon slayer suddenly bolts in another direction. Sylvie quickly tasks Lightning to scout the entire area, as they still need to remain cautious. With that, she decides to end the day. Thankfully, they've swept a 5-kilometer radius, which should keep the engineering teams working on the tracks safe for the next few days. At Site 9's underground command post, Sister Sylvie is busy marking all the areas they've cleared so far around the railway line. The Knight is very glad that Lady Iris's exile plan was a success. Speaking of which, Sylvie inquires about her whereabouts. Turns out, there are orders from His Majesty Roland that she should return to Neverwinter with Iron Axe by plane. This revelation clearly means that the crucial turning point of the battle has finally come. The final pre-battle conference to decide the strategy must be starting now, with Iris and Iron Axe being the main members. A while later, Roland is facing the both we mentioned just now. The first thing His Majesty asks about is their experience flying in the plane for the first time. For Iron Axe, the ride was pretty frightening, especially when the plane bobbed up and down. Still, he promises to get used to it and put his fears behind him. As for Iris, just one look at her face is enough to tell she had the time of her life aboard that amazing machine. Anyhow, with the core members back in Neverwinter, Roland decides to head to the conference room and begin their final preparations for the war ahead. In the room, several key figures of Neverwinter are present. After nearly 6 months of construction and development, the first railway mainline across the fertile plains is now less than 60 kilometers from the Tequila ruins where the devils are hiding. Once Tower 10 station is completed, the First Army will be able to launch a direct assault on the enemy's new entrenchments there. If the fertile plains are consumed by the red mist, the devils will be able to push past the impassable mountain range, stretching the front lines and giving themselves a major advantage over the First Army. For humans who are already outnumbered, that would be a disastrous start. But if Neverwinter manages to seize the Tequila ruins, the devils will have no choice but to turn toward the holy cities, since those are the only places where they can spread the mist using divine stone veins. Comet City and Anlieta are both closer to the northern edge of the plains. Even if the devils establish strongholds there, they won't pose a direct threat to the Four Kingdoms. Unfortunately, things rarely go as planned. The appearance of the Demon Slayer has forced a change in strategy. The curse he carries renders all healing methods ineffective, so even minor wounds can prove fatal. Lightning's healing ability is just enough to keep pace with the infection, but Leaf isn't so lucky. According to Nightingale's secret observations and reports, Leaf's condition continues to deteriorate. To avoid losing his girls, Roland must ensure the Demon Slayer is taken down in the Tequila ruins. Iris then adds her insights. According to the General Staff's calculations, there's a 90% chance the Demon Slayer will retreat once it determines the battle isn't in its favor. Though not guaranteed, these deductions are based on behavioral patterns. Alethea agrees with her conclusions. Fearlessness doesn't mean the devils will act recklessly or throw their lives away. In that respect, they're no different from humans. High-ranking commanders are far too valuable to waste by dying alongside their frenzied subordinates. Therefore, they must strategize how to intercept the retreating Demon Slayer. Fortunately, Neverwinter has excellent intel on the enemy's movements. Not to mention, similar cases have happened in the past, proving that intel is very concrete. If the Demon Slayer doesn't realize he's being specifically targeted, then ultra-long-range sniping is undoubtedly the most reliable option. But Tilly points out a problem with that approach. Whether a single bullet can kill the Demon Slayer remains a mystery, and if they miss their only chance, the consequences would be catastrophic. For now, they should assume the enemy has already accounted for long-range weapons and is prepared to counter them. After all, in previous battles, the Devil's understanding of firearms has surpassed everyone's expectations. Iris reveals that the General Staff has proposed a solution: the use of divine punishment stones as warheads. Even if they fail to kill, the stones would at least ground the monsters. Since divine stones are weaker than standard bullets and prone to shattering, Andrea's weapon might be the best option due to its unique caliber. Lady Agatha has confirmed that divine stones made directly from devil's blood are significantly stronger, and that woman has already brought 2 bottles of fresh devil blood for experiments. Now the focus shifts to stopping the devils from retreating. Only lightning is fast enough to chase the Demon Slayer, but she clearly isn't capable of stopping him alone. Iris reminds them they're overlooking something even faster than the Demon Slayer. That something is the seagull in a dive. And to be clear, it's not an actual bird, but the plane. They just call it Seagull. Tilly suggests boarding divine punishment witches in the planes. The anti-magic field around these witches mirrors the divine stone's effect. So, if a dozen of them join the mission, they should be able to stall, or even eliminate the enemy. Even if that fails, the sniper team would still have a chance to catch up and deliver the final blow. After hearing all the suggestions, Roland locks onto the proposed solutions. Though, deep down, he doubts Ash will ever agree with his plan. After all, Tilly herself will be one of the pilots in this mission, ensuring the divine punishment witches reach their target. That also means Tilly will be directly exposed to danger, and Ash would never want that. But Tilly assures them she will convince her. She will only act as the pilot, and by the time the Slayer even notices the seagull, the divine punishment witches will have already contained him. With that settled, Iris moves to the final step: the ambush location. Without the red mist, even high-ranking devils can't last long. These lapses will force them to retreat and quickly replenish their tanks. That also means the best ambush site will be somewhere along the bloodline, also known as their red mist supply chain. Alethea has a solid suggestion. She recalls the time when Ash carried out an infiltration mission to plant a phantom device, meant to help them surveil that very area. While the mission didn't yield much back then, it now provides an excellent vantage point over the rear of the Tequila ruins. Once they activate the phantom device deployed there, they can monitor the bloodline and launch an ambush to destroy it. Taking this into account, Roland announces that Iron Axe and Iris will remain in the third border city for the next few days and finalize the ambush plan as soon as possible. Through telepathy, Alethea informs him that Celine is waiting in the basement. Apparently, she has made a new breakthrough in ritual cube research. The next scene cuts to the underground facility, where Roland arrives to hear all the details. Celine shows him 2 calendar-shaped contraptions that are supposedly components of the magic cube. Roland looks at them curiously and asks how she managed to separate them without breaking the cube. But then he's shocked. The cube is still glowing despite missing components. It turns out Celine replicated and installed new parts, and they work just as well as the originals. She eagerly awaits his thoughts on her breakthrough. Roland, of course, is thrilled and proud. Originally, he thought it would take her a year, but she achieved this in just 3 months. A record time for sure. Through her research, she's also learned the cube's structure is much simpler than that of a magic core. She now estimates she'll only need about 500 pieces of material for a replica instead of thousands. Roland assures her that the necessary materials will be arranged. Then Celine expresses her desire for a reward. Of course, it isn't a selfish request. It's something that will help her research further. She needs an assistant to help her grasp the knowledge of the dream world. Her fellow witches are the most suitable candidates, but they found it difficult to learn alone. They told her about institutions where instructors guide students and answer their questions. So she's thinking perhaps Roland can help them enroll in a school. The next scene cuts to Roland in bed with his beloved. For now, they aren't indulging in romance but rather discussing tasks. He wants her to fine-tune Andrea's weapon for greater stability and power when using divine stones. He promises Andrea will give her full cooperation. After nerding out over technical details, Roland eventually falls asleep in her warm embrace. With sleep comes dreams, and in his dream world, he immediately greets the Tequila witches delegated by Celine for research purposes. The pink-haired one is Saint Milan, whose ability is posture mimicry. She can seamlessly copy anyone connected to her magic. Then there's a girl known as Duo, whose ability is the non-existent pocket, a dimensional space for storing items. Roland is certain Celine has already given them their assignments. He tells them to keep questions to a minimum and leave the unexpected situations to him. He then promptly contacts his sister, who is relieved. She has something urgent to share. Wasting no time, Roland walks to her room and enters after asking permission. She congratulates him for finally being enrolled in the Martial Arts Association. The paper she hands him contains the contract details. All he has to do is sign it. Signing the paper will grant him a hunting license. Only those exceptionally talented in combat and determined to fight evil are granted one. To emphasize the license's importance, fewer than 10 martial artists in this city possess one. From what she knows, Prim City has only issued about 100 in total, with all rules and guidelines written at the end of the book. She reminds him that this license is both the trust of the association and a great responsibility. She has high hopes he can persevere until humanity's final victory. She suddenly asks why he called her in the first place. Roland admits there's something he needs from her, but she must come to his room first. When she presses for details, he assures her she'll understand once they arrive. There, Garcia meets 3 adorable girls. But unfortunately, she misunderstands the situation and accuses him of pedophilia, even threatening to have him arrested. After some effort, Roland finally convinces her these girls are merely his disciples, students he tutors. While teaching Zero, he also teaches these 3. If he keeps them here too long, people will grow suspicious, just like she did. Garcia suddenly recalls something he mentioned long ago, that he wanted her to take care of his relatives. This puts Roland in a tight spot, since she's pointing out a bluff he made a year and a half ago. He clarifies that they're not his relatives, only girls from his hometown. When he left, they were just little kids. Due to poor living conditions in that village, they too came here seeking a better life. Donnan steps forward to validate Roland's words, and the others join in, trying to win Garcia over. Being kind-hearted, Garcia genuinely wishes for them to live normal lives, but isn't sure if she can help. These girls are unregistered civilians. Only her father can help them to get them residency, and she doesn't want to turn back to her father for help. The 3 girls, together with Roland, play their final trump card, their shining, wistful eyes, dazzling her completely. Still, Garcia refuses. She explains she left her family behind and swore never to see her father again. Besides, the Sanya group still hasn't abandoned plans to demolish the Tongzi residential area, meaning her home remains in danger. If she returns to her father for a favor, he'll use it as leverage to gain her approval for the demolition. And if that happens, the people who trusted her would feel betrayed. However, she offers him another option: speak to her father himself. Tomorrow night, he's hosting a banquet at a downtown hotel for the city's outstanding martial artists. Her father knows she won't attend, but still sent an invitation. This, at least, lets the media think he's still trying to mend their relationship. The invitation isn't in her name, but she can call the organizers and have Roland enter as her proxy. A proxy may accept or refuse, and by choosing Roland as hers, it becomes a clear refusal. Seeing Roland a little reluctant, she asks if he might be feeling scared. He admits that he is worried, but not because he is worried about facing his father. Rather, he's more concerned about returning empty-handed. The girl assures him that his father isn't petty. In business, especially in transactions, he values profit above grudges or personal interests. Besides, Roland isn't just an ordinary martial artist. Prism City has already noticed his growth. With that reassurance, Roland gains the confidence he needs to move forward. Garcia feels a swell of pride having a fellow martial artist like him by her side, which is why she feels ashamed for having misunderstood him. She tells him that if he ever needs help in the future, she's only a phone call away. With that, the siblings shake hands on a good note. A while later, we see Roland cruising down in his sleek Mercedes with his girls. They're excited to devour all the food at the banquet, but Roland reminds them that banquets aren't for unrestrained eating. These gatherings are opportunities to expand one's network. After all, no one wants to talk to someone with a greasy mouth. With that in mind, the girls promise to hold back, but he doubts they actually will. He then assures them they can eat all they want, so long as they don't disturb anyone around them. Hearing this, the girls even consider sneaking out food, and surprisingly, Roland gives them the green light. As long as you don't get caught, it's fine. Finally, they arrive outside the lavish hotel building. The group walks through empty corridors and takes the elevator to their designated floor. As the glass elevator rises, the girls are awestruck by the grandeur of the city view. Even if they combined all 3 holy cities, they doubt they could match the scale of this one place. They then find it hard to believe mortals are capable of achieving such heights. By now, they've realized that Roland's plan to build a miracle tower is influenced by this world's wonders. Hearing this, Roland notes how these girls already suspect that he comes from a realm resembling this place, even though he has only ever shared that truth with Anna. The banquet hall is packed with guests from all walks of life. At the buffet table, the girls indulge in mouth-watering dishes they've never tasted before. Roland completely understands their excitement. While this world may be a dispensable virtual realm for him, for the survivors of Tequila, it's the only place they feel alive, where they can still savor touch, smell, and taste. Suddenly, Roland notices free-spirited martial artists dressed in formal attire. He recalls Garcia's words. While the Martial Artists Association is dedicated to saving the world, righteousness alone isn't enough to attract new blood. To make the role more appealing, the martial arts sport was created, where contestants compete. In less than 50 years, the martial arts competition has become one of the most watched events. Through it, awakened ones gain exposure, fame, and wealth. It continuously infuses the association with new talent. Outstanding contestants are given more authority and pulled into decision-making. This shift, however, created a rift between the old guard and the new generation. Nevertheless, this disagreement hasn't affected the contest itself. In fact, the competition's intensity draws even more attention. In the background, a man orders a background check on Roland. His secretary promptly reports that Roland's ordinary upbringing, his chance encounter with Miss Garcia, and his lack of martial arts ranking all suggest he has never competed. Not to mention, he only joined the Martial Artists Association 3 months ago, which is highly unusual. The blonde man grows more curious. What's the deal with Roland? After all, Garcia is notoriously erratic and difficult to approach. The fact that Roland has already earned her interest speaks volumes. Blondie wants to know how he even got that close to her. We are then introduced to Fei Yuhan, the rising star of the martial arts league. She has already reached the conference finals twice in just 5 years. Though she hasn't won the championship yet, most believe it's only because she is still young and lacks experience. Given time, the title of strongest will be hers. Her exceptional talent already marks her as a genius of the new generation. Rumors say that winning the championship grants entry into Prism City's elite. Someone like her wouldn't normally bother with the Sanye Group's invitation, but the fact that she came to this banquet to investigate Roland only fuels Blondie's curiosity. He approaches her with all the information she wanted about Roland, but Fei Yuhan, cold and composed, shuts him down because he doesn't want him to yap once again since he's already told her enough. Shifting to her perspective, she's genuinely amazed that Roland can defeat a fallen despite being a newcomer. But what piques her interest even more are the strange girls around him, speaking in bizarre ways. They keep calling Roland His Majesty and mentioning a dream world. At first she thinks they might be role-playing, but their serious expressions suggest otherwise. Finally, the big shot hosting this banquet arrives. This man is Garcia's father, a Sanye board member and head of construction. Roland had been expecting to see Wimbledon III for Garcia's father, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The only explanation he can think of is that the residents of the dream world have developed their own personalities and relationships after merging with the modern world. Without dwelling on it, he signals to his girls to wait while he takes care of the real reason they came here. Eventually, Roland intercepts Garcia's father, introduces himself as Garcia's representative, and greets him directly. The man welcomes Roland politely and even feels proud to see a capable martial artist accompanying his daughter. They clink glasses before Roland requests a private talk. Unfortunately, the man declines, reminding his guest that he has many other guests to entertain. But Roland insists, mentioning his daughter's name as the reason he came. Since it's about his daughter, the man eventually agrees and brings Roland into a VIP room. However, the family butler remains in the room, which Roland points out. The man vouches for him, saying he's been with the family for decades and is completely trustworthy. Roland decides to cut to the chase and lays his request on the table. The 3 girls he brought are undocumented residents, and he wants them registered legally so they can enroll in a good high school. Roland is confident this is a trivial task for the Sanye Group. The man, however, asks what benefit he gains from doing this. He also hints that since Roland is Garcia's representative, he'll naturally stand with her and oppose the demolition project. Of course, Roland immediately expresses his support for Garcia's endeavors. In that case, the man feels there isn't much to discuss. It is then Roland plays his ace, his hunting license. The big shot is visibly shocked to see such a coveted document. He turns to his butler to confirm its legitimacy, and the suited guy insists the license is genuine. Naturally, the man demands to know how Roland got his hands on it. For obvious reasons, our boy refuses to explain anything since confidential information like that is restricted to the association only. What matters is the significance of the license itself. The man accuses Roland of trying to threaten him, reminding him that even licensed hunters must obey the law. But Roland clarifies he has no such intentions. Instead, in exchange for Sanye's favor, he's willing to eliminate one person for them. Though there are few conditions his target must fulfill. The target must have a criminal record, cannot be a public figure, and must pose a genuine threat to the Sanye Group. He makes it very clear that he has ways of detecting bluffs, so they'd better not test him. Even so, the man believes the deal doesn't benefit him much, especially compared to the risk of illegal registration. To his surprise, Roland reveals that the 3 girls are just the beginning. He plans to register at least 300 people. Naturally, the man hesitates. Such a large influx will definitely catch the authorities' attention. But Roland assures him there's no rush. He can take a year, even 2, to get it done. With this flexible timeline, the man finally agrees. Both parties shake hands on good terms, and Roland leaves with his girls. The girls don't particularly like the man's attitude toward their majesty, but Roland reminds them that he doesn't hold the king's title in this world, and it's better they don't call him that either. Moving on, the girls are eager to eat more, but they are worried they might leave too soon. Roland compromises, giving them 30 minutes at the buffet before they head back, since the others are waiting at base. The girls happily rush to raid the food, while Roland sips his wine, only to realize it's laced with a magical substance. Shocked, he understands someone is deliberately targeting him in this dream world. He scans the room, trying to pinpoint the culprit. He hates the idea of being targeted by an NPC. If the other party has the ability to spike his drink with magic, why haven't they shown themselves yet? Perhaps they're just trying to scare him, or testing his reaction. Then Roland suddenly recalls the contents of that note he had found in the book Garcia had gotten from the association. The note mentioned Rose Cafe, room 302. If his hunch is right, that mentioned place is tied to the arrival of the Red Moon in the real world, meaning someone intends to meet him on that very day. The Red Moon's appearance also marks the beginning of the War of Divine Will. What puzzles him most is how someone inside the dream world knows what's coming in the real world. Moreover, if he doesn't sleep, this world remains frozen. So how is he supposed to meet them on the day of the blood moon? And even now, he doesn't know where this so-called Rose Cafe actually is. Finally, Roland resolves to create his own Room 302 inside a Rose Cafe here in the dream world, to fulfill the conditions and force this mysterious NPC to reveal themselves, the one hinting at him about the Divine War and everything tied to it. We then shift our perspective to Fei Yuhan, who just picked up the spiked wine of glass Roland put down. Turns out, it was she who infused his wine with magic, and she is quite amused that he managed to break free from the influence cast on it. After drinking, she confirms it's just an ordinary glass of wine. Seriously bro, I hate this dream world nonsense. It's just filler. It shouldn't have existed. Finally, we cut back to the real world, where all the divine witches are expressing their deepest gratitude to Roland for the hospitality he showed them last night. Hearing those girls rave about food and all that, Anna's appetite kicks in as well. She also wants to taste the otherworldly cuisines herself. Roland gives her pat, promising she'll get to experience it soon enough. In Roland's office, Nightingale has brought a sack of stones, the same type as those found in the underground ruins and the Cage Mountain ruins. The note inside reveals that these so-called ancient ruins aren't limited to the undersea caves, but are scattered all over the world. So far, they've uncovered 16 dig sites near Festivity Harbor, each with the same stickman artifacts. If all the sites are connected, the area would expand to cover more than 7 or 8 harbors. Meanwhile, beneath the desert lies a 5 to 10 meter stone wall. That place isn't filled with stone tablets, it's covered with clusters of green grass. Since they've already found countless stone tablets near Festivity Harbor, Roland can only imagine how many more lie beneath the endless cape. If these slabs are truly the remains of silicon-based organisms, then the more they mine these stones, the higher the genocide count increases. For once, Roland is certain the desertification of the southernmost region has nothing to do with drought, and the Silver River wasn't always underground either. That land used to be a green grassland, no different from other parts of the continent, but the war that raged there destroyed it all. Countless stickmen were slaughtered by the Radiant race. Their corpses piled so thick they blanketed the earth, letting only fragments of sunlight seep through cracks. This means Iron Sand City and Festivity Harbor are built on layers of dead stickmen. Only God knows how many more will die if the Divine Will War doesn't end. As Roland's thoughts scatter while unraveling the past events, Nightingale notices his horrified face and snaps him out of it. Given his expression, she's sure he must have grim news. Of course, Roland does have plenty to share, but for now he blames his gloom on overthinking. His head is so shaken after realizing all this that he doesn't want to face the crude truth. He prefers to think it's just assumptions. That's when Nightingale gives him a sliver of hope, saying there's always a solution, no matter how hopeless. She admits she isn't as sharp at brainstorming as Anna, so he shouldn't expect a foolproof idea. Roland promises he won't laugh, no matter how absurd or shallow the suggestion is. He's all ears. She starts by pointing out that this divine war can't be solved within 1 or 2 generations. The best solution is to pass down all knowledge and unresolved problems to future generations. Humans have very limited lifespans, making it impossible to handle every issue of the world. Instead of worrying about distant problems, they should eliminate the immediate ones. Whether the next generation succeeds or not doesn't concern the current one. Roland admires her effort to comfort him. He smiles, not because he finds the idea absurd, but because it's the most straightforward and clear solution he's ever heard. The girl is glad to be acknowledged by His Majesty. She further suggests entrusting these responsibilities to other races as well. Even if humans fail, other races may succeed. To share his problems and R&D with them, Roland could build ruins and record the truth of the Divine Will War. Just like they found murals of the Radiant race and stickmen in the Temple of Curses, they could build fortified underground bunkers across Grey Castle. Using wall paintings, they could warn future races. Roland smiles at her way of thinking. Given her limited mental capabilities, he's proud she thought this far. Before they finish, Camilla suddenly bursts in, fresh from their expedition to Neverwinter. She brings shocking news that Joan went missing during the Shadow Isles exploration. Naturally, Roland is shaken to his core and wants her to recount everything slowly so he can understand. Within minutes, she explains how Joan disappeared, how they waited 2 days by the sea but couldn't wait forever. Thunder insisted only Roland might understand what Joan encountered underwater. Camilla also wants to know if floating pillar islands could truly exist. Well, Roland has no clue either. The more he digs, the stranger this world becomes. By now, reality is just as twisted as his dreams. The elongated sea pillars didn't drag in fish, only Joan was pulled into the depths. Camilla described her fingers suddenly stretching unnaturally. Normally, such distortion would cause unbearable pain, yet Joan felt nothing. For now, Roland concludes it was spatial distortion. He agrees Thunder was right to return, and he remains certain Joan is still alive, perhaps swept east of the sea line. But Camilla refuses to believe she traveled thousands of miles in a blink. Roland admits it's only speculation. What's certain is that the water level of the Shadow Sea has dropped significantly. The change has even altered the tides of Bay Islands, meaning an astronomical amount of seawater has vanished. The best guess is that all the water has shifted east, beyond the sea line. After racking his brains for quite a while, the only way that much water could vanish is if it was transferred from one location to another instantly. It's the same as how two ends of space are connected through a wormhole. Once again, Camilla refuses to believe it and eventually collapses into Nightingale's arms from sheer exhaustion. Roland immediately orders the girl to put Camilla in the witch's tower to rest and summon Tilly to the office at once. We then shift perspective to the devils. The high-tier devil, the demon slayer, also known as Lord Ursulik, is busy gazing at the night sky. His henchmen arrive to report that all the necessary preparations have been made. The Lord praises them for a job well done and assigns his lackey to continue surveillance. But the lackey voices doubt that the humans will fall into their trap. The price they paid to lay it was significant, so much so that if Skylord finds out, he'll be furious. Ursulik has already accounted for failure, but he believes the outcome will be worth the cost. While staring at the rail tracks the humans have built, the Lord is fascinated that humans hold their ground without massive walls. Before humans grow stronger, he wants to crush them. The Lord then quizzes his lackey for his take on their current standing. The lackey remains modest, admitting their losses, but claiming those losses are because they've been fighting with their backs to the wall. The Lord does not shy from admitting the enemy is overwhelmingly powerful. There's no room for excuses. Although the devils have been successful in extending their red mist supply and capturing much land, the results aren't as bountiful as they were 400 years ago. Humans have simply evolved their combat abilities, enabling effective long-range assaults. Thinking of humans as bugs is one thing, but their strength is commendable. For now, the Lord believes the only thing that can turn the tide is the Tower of Genesis. Consequently, he wants to erect the tower as soon as possible before the enemy realizes their trap. He wants to gouge out their eyes and amputate their limbs, rendering them incapable of using the tricks they've relied on. Internally, he feels the next breakthrough is close, and this war may be the opportunity to gain experience for their next evolution. Wars may lead to bloodshed, but they are also a catalyst for evolution and learning. Watching the railway tracks, he is certain humans are taking the same approach. We then cut to a council meeting with important figures present. Alethea adds that the bloodline, also known as Red Mist Supply Chain, runs northeast to southwest, and almost every day a team supplies red mist to the devils stationed in the ruins. 10 months ago, when Lorgrar first discovered the devils and Ash located them, the devils had 3 supply lines. But now, only 1 remains. From this, she can estimate enemy troop losses and their remaining strength. With only 1 supply line sustaining them, high-ranking devils won't stray far from it during a retreat. Wendy fears they may build fake supply lines to confuse the First Army, but Alethea believes using reserves of red mist merely to create a decoy would be suicidal. They once transported large quantities of red mist to mislead and used it to strike from afar. Now that they have only 1 bloodline, also known as the Red Mist Supply Line, they would never dare to reduce it. Supply lines are where devils erect obelisks made of divine stone. If the demons truly had alternative supplies, they would have invaded Grey Castle from the Misty Forest or the Hermes Plateau already. The Red Mist supply team basically consists of modified siege beasts and a small number of frenzied demons, which pose no real threat to the Special Operations team and the Seagull. With that in mind, the Seagull's main target is to take down the flying terror beasts. As for where the war will take place, Iris is given the floor to speak. Iris shows results produced by the general staff and the combined effort of everyone. The map shows the Bloodline's east side is flat and treeless, unsuitable for an ambush. But the picture changes if they can launch the attack from the sky. After all, the Seagull can see everything from above. The terrain to the west is much more rugged, with a small mountain there. That side is only partially visible on the Phantom device, so they need a map to complete it. There are 3 locations suitable for Miss Andrea Quinn to set up a firing position. From north to south, the hilltop, the jungle at the hill's foot, and a raised foothill belt. The most advantageous shooting position is the hilltop. However, this hilltop is far from the supply line. If the Seagull intercepts the Demon Slayer, the Special Ops will have to travel a long way to provide support. Also, there is nowhere to hide on the summit, so reinforcements would be fully exposed to terror beasts in the sky. If anything happens, the Seagull won't be able to rescue them at a moment's notice. Due to the Phantom device's limited range, they can't have a clear view of everything. The hilltop is the only high ground with a full view, and no one would feel safe being stationed there without defenses. Although Lightning said the devils didn't seem to have prepared, it's better to be cautious with magic warfare. The Special Ops team's strength lies in secrecy, and if they're exposed, it will ruin the planned ambush. By the way, the Special Ops is a team consisting of Andrea and others. Alethea, watching from the background, is impressed by Iris's thorough planning. She leaves no stone left unturned. She even lauds Iris mentally, letting Roland know he has seriously talented mortals under his command. Taking the chance, Roland boasts it's all because of education. If the Tequila Witches had emphasized education years ago, the mortals would have been key assets in elevating their standing. Back to business, Roland inquires about Iris's ideal location for the ambush. Iris picks the jungle at the foot of the mountain. The sniper team may have a narrow view there, but they could hide there easily. They can monitor the sky while also supporting Princess Tilly from the jungle if necessary. Of course, they could also hide at the foot of the mountain, but it's too close to the Tequila ruins. If the enemy happens to retreat, their location will be exposed. In her conclusion, she believes the jungle is currently their best option. It has the best of both worlds. If you're on the hill, you'll be exposed to the terror beasts in the sky. But if you're near Tequila, you'll be exposed to foot devils during their retreat. The two teams will pinch the Demon Slayer's retreat route from the left and right, giving Andrea a chance to ambush the bastard with her sniper rifle, if the devil doesn't realize their intentions. Even if he figures out Andrea's presence, the Divine Punishment Witches will be there to block his retreat. Now, this ambush plan relies entirely on how effective Anna's newly built weapon will be. Moving on to the next phase of the war. Once the shelling of Tequila officially begins, the First Army will dispatch a unit to advance 5 to 6 kilometers to the left flank to support the Special Operations Team's retreat. As for when the ambush begins, it will depend entirely on how resistant the enemy proves to be. For now, that concludes the plan, much to Roland's bewilderment, who likely has a feeling they're overlooking something. Iris wants him relocated to the third border city once the battle begins, along with the city hall members and the witches in the castle district. While the old man Barov fumes at this woman for ordering the king, Anna asks whether the devils intend to attack Neverwinter. As far as Iris can gather, the chances are slim to none, but that doesn't mean they can overlook the possibility. After all, they can't fully estimate the number of devils just by looking at their supply line. For example, the red mist canisters that support 3,000 devils could also be used by 1,000 devils to travel greater distances. The devils have appeared in Neverwinter before, but that was only to send a warning. This time, if they come, their target will be the castle district itself. And it won't just be ordinary devils. High-ranking ones are bound to appear. Even if they have to abandon Tequila in the worst-case scenario, they won't hesitate for a second. With everyone on the same page, Roland decides to go with her proposed plan. Then comes the encouragement phase of the meeting, where Roland sparks hope of victory in everyone, raising their morale. Every person must act together and play their role. They will defeat the devils and take Tequila back. Everyone roars, pledging to fulfill their duties with all their hearts. In the following days, we see a well-built plane landing back on the runway. Unboarding is Tilly, greeted by Ash on the runway. It feels like the war is about to begin. They are in the preparation phase right now. Ash can also be seen reassuring Tilly about Sister Leaf. As long as Leaf remains the heart of the forest, no one can possibly harm her. And the reason Ash was waiting at the runway is because it was Sister Leaf who announced the princess's arrival. Today, Tilly is back from the battlefield preparations to stay until morning, much to Ash's shock. Since they have time, Ash decides to take Tilly for a walk around the camp to show her the new species of fruit Sister Leaf has been cultivating. She even suggests throwing a bonfire and enjoying themselves, but Tilly turns her down. She has too much on her plate. Seeing Ash's downcast face, Tilly assures her that it's time to prepare for the inevitable. In the coming days, they'll be together, so there's no need to feel sad now. Ash's presence is necessary in this battle because the Special Operations Team requires her help intercepting the devils. They need to pack tonight and reach the front lines by tomorrow. They'll be taking the Seagull to get there, and the rest of the details will be explained on the way. Though it may be too busy for a bonfire party, they still have enough time to try out some of the experimental fruits Ash mentioned. A while later, Ash doesn't feel right when she learns that Tilly will be piloting the Seagull. Ash had promised Roland she would never let his sister set foot on the battlefield. She quickly spins around to confront His Majesty, only for Tilly to reveal that he didn't assign the task to her. Tilly herself volunteered for it. She convinces Ash there's no danger involved. If it were a suicide mission, things would be different. But in this situation, she's only acting as backup. She's supposed to step in only if Andrea Quinn fails to complete the sniping mission. Her task mainly involves deploying onboard Divine Punishment Witches. Ash fears that with the Magic Slayer Devil in the mix, things are bound to go south. Of course, Tilly has already considered this. She isn't dumb enough to fly the Seagull in plain sight of the Devil Slayer and land right under its nose to drop off the witches. Not to mention, there's no need to use the Seagull as bait either. All she needs to do is take out the enemy troops carrying red mist canisters for the Devil Slayer. After all, the Devil Slayer will eventually need a recharge. Without refills, fleeing the plains would be impossible. To put it simply, the Divine Punishment Witches will wait for the enemy's arrival and drag them into battle, buying enough time for Wendy and Tilly to return safely. Despite all this assurance and a seemingly risk-free plan, Ash still isn't convinced. Since words aren't enough, Tilly plays her trump card, leaning in and giving the big girl a soft smooch on the lips. After a passionate kiss, they pull apart, both embarrassed. Tilly promises she'll return and wait for Ash's arrival too. Their next reunion may take weeks or months, but she'll be waiting. The two girls then share yet another kiss, and this time, it's Ash who takes the initiative. We then cut to this knight contingent saluting his 3 core commanders, Iris, Agatha, and Hunter Iron Axe. Looking at the map laid out, showing the railway track stretching towards the Tequila ruins, Hunter Iron Axe demands the latest report on the Devil's reinforcements at the front lines. Turns out the Devils are digging a trench. It was Miss Sylvie who noticed it first. Some Devils had crawled out of the Red Mist corruption zone and began digging 6 days ago. Then Miss Lightning confirmed it and noticed Devils moving inside the trench, so she marked it as a danger zone. According to Lightning's sketch, although it looks crude at first glance, its general layout is strikingly similar to the trenches once built by the First Army. The trenches are spaced 10 to dozens of meters apart and connected by multiple longitudinal ditches. The biggest difference between the First Army's trenches and the Devils is that the demons dug more longitudinal channels for retreat purposes. The maximum deviation is no more than 2 meters, making the entire trench system look neat, consistent, and well organized. Agatha can tell that these creatures are learning from humans, and their design has also piqued Iris's curiosity. From what she sees, those longitudinal ditches aren't for retreating, they're for attacking instead. Iron Axe agrees. After all, hiding in trenches does reduce the risk of being hit by shrapnel, but the Devils have no means to withstand fortress cannons. A few trenches alone can't change the situation. They can only hope to win by assaulting the First Army's positions. This is likely why they built the longitudinal trenches so close together. The tighter they are, the shorter the travel time. Agatha considers making adjustments to their current plan, but Iris feels new changes are unnecessary. Once they get within artillery range, she wants the Black River, their armored train, to open fire. Although it may be a waste of ammunition, His Majesty has prepared sufficient stockpiles to handle unpredictable situations. Iron Axe then inquires about the current status of the railway construction site. The Knight reports that enemy counterattacks have become more frequent, but the damage inflicted has been negligible. Mad Devils can't easily reach the railway lines, so they mainly send terror beasts from the air instead of ground troops. They could have easily slain all the flying beasts, but a higher devil entered the mix. This creature has become a constant threat. Each time it shows up, it draws attention to itself. Then the terror beasts dive in after it, using the distraction to strike. The creature is so cunning that it strikes from above at the weakest point in the defense, disorienting anyone who looks at it for several seconds upon landing. Even with God's punishment stones, it is one tough nut to crack. Without the stones, workers hiding in bunkers would have fallen into a state of panic under the devil's influence. The closer you are, the worse the effect. Dread beasts lurking in the clouds exploit this vulnerability to attack. Although Sylvie alerts the front lines before each battle, it's still not easy to intercept a target diving from overhead, especially since 1 or 2 hits can't kill it. The best result the First Army has achieved so far was breaking one of the devil's arms after it landed, but when it reappeared a few days later, the arm had fully recovered as if it had never been injured. To make matters worse, several squads reported to General Staff that the Magic Slayer Devil's movements are becoming harder to predict, as if it is adapting to this level of combat. In the past, a single machine gun could block its path and force it to change direction, but now it takes the combined fire of 2 or 3 squads to achieve the same. If it weren't for the weapons and God's punishment stones invented by His Majesty, this creature might have been able to kill everyone with its own power. Agatha also confirms that the Devils used the same approach during the Alliance era. High-ranking Devils evolve through constant battle. The more severely they are wounded, the stronger they become when they return, both in magic and fighting skill. Many Transcendents died at their hands. Not only did they fail to stop them, but they inadvertently helped them grow even stronger. She fears that if this monster, with its multiple abilities, is not destroyed and manages to escape, the consequences will be unimaginable. The only way to secure victory is to eliminate it here and now. Just then, the Black River arrives, loaded with weapons. With that, they are ready to launch their assault on the Tequila ruins. As the 3 capable commanders step into the watchtower, the ruins lie in full view before them. Seeing her hometown stirs Agatha's memories. She recalls the day she joined the Alliance after the ceremony. The Transcendent Witches had been delighted to see a young talent like her join their ranks. Even at a young age, Agatha had earned many admirers who looked up to her. By the time she began working in the secret laboratory of Tequila City, she had learned the dark and twisted nature of the Alliance, an organization hiding behind the glorified image of transcendent witches hailed as protectors. They were sacrificing their own kind as pawns for their experiments. This filled her with disgust, and she wanted nothing to do with their ways. Then came the day the Devils infiltrated. The city walls were breached, the Allied forces were collapsing, and there was no hope left for Tequila. Her servants urged her to flee the city. While she fought the Devils, she asked her crew to escape while she held back the enemy. She wanted them to cross the great mountains, traverse the rivers, and seek that barbaric land where order could be reforged. But one of her servants stayed behind until the end, clinging to his duty to protect his mistress with his life. Back in the present, she makes an unusual request to Iron Axe. If the First Army successfully advances the front line within 10 kilometers, she hopes that she and the Divine Punishment Witches can fire the first shells targeting Tequila City. In the following days, the Devils make their move, cautiously advancing through the trenches, getting closer to the First Army standing on the front lines. Unfortunately for Sylvie, she can no longer monitor their movements, as the devils have placed 2 massive divine punishment stones to block her vision. Eventually, she sounds the alarm, warning that the enemy is on the move. The engineering team working on the tracks immediately rushes to the nearest shelter. They are strictly ordered not to leave without authorization. Once everyone is inside the shelters, Sylvie reports the successful evacuation of the engineering team. With the entire base under blackout, the First Army begins moving into position. Sylvie's job has become hectic. She's busy answering everyone at once. The artillery team is requesting enemy locations and firing coordinates to set up the artillery. Meanwhile, the team at the Black River is also asking for updates on enemy positions. Sylvie promptly contacts the flying duo, which is Maggie and Lightning. Since the enemy is interfering with Sylvie's magic eye, only the 2 flyers can scout that area. With that in mind, both girls head out to track enemy movements. Maggie quickly transforms into an owl to take advantage of its night vision. But before they can get too close, they're ordered to retreat because the Magic Slayer is on the move. The very mention of that devil triggers Lightning's PTSD, but she swallows her fear and breaks through her mental restraints. Confident in her speed, she believes she can outfly that freak. As she blasts into the sky at sonic speed, Maggie is tasked with scouting the ground below. Suddenly, the high-tier devil intercepts their path, but Lightning leaves it in the dust. Her speed has been amplified since her awakening. On the ground below, they spot spider-like devils rolling massive stone pillars. After their quick surveillance, Lightning dashes out of enemy territory and into the safe zone. She doesn't forget to flip her middle finger back at that slowpoke bastard before reporting in. With her intel, the train-mounted artillery promptly opens fire. Shells streak through the night sky like falling stars, their dazzling light shining as a beacon of hope for mankind. But it's not that simple. Inside the command post, Iron Axe grits his teeth because the first round against the devils is dragging on longer than expected. If it were daytime, the battle would already be over. And with Sylvie's sight blocked, they can't even track enemy positions, let alone cover blind spots. Still, Iris doesn't seem worried. To her, the devils are the ones taking the real toll. Iron Axe, however, is more concerned about running out of the ammunition they worked so hard to stockpile. Iris reassures him that the enemy will eventually kneel. Surely even the devils realize that. They're hoping to counterattack once they reach mortar range, but unfortunately for them, a surprise awaits. The moment they step into the flare's illumination range, the battle will be decided. Cutting back to the front lines, where the artillery is positioned, the high-tier devil reappears. The bastard commands his minions to overwhelm the humans. As soon as they enter range, one of the knights orders flares to be launched and elevation fire to begin immediately. The sky lights up as the flares burst, leaving foot soldiers staring at the blinding glow above them. With targets revealed, the artillery rains hell on the devils, obliterating not just them, but the very ground they stand on. The high-tier devil watches in horror as his forces are shredded. Just 6 months ago, night raids were enough to overwhelm humans. But now, these mortals have prepared a flawless counter-strategy and are executing it with precision. They're no longer helpless bugs, they're the real deal. And this devil knows his king must hear of it. Seeing his army massacred, he takes flight. If he doesn't eliminate the humans' eyes and arms, his king's grand expansion plan will collapse. With that resolve, he dives toward the hot air balloon and rips apart the scout inside. Meanwhile, the devils desperately try to advance on the artillery. But under the relentless barrage of bullets and cannons, they're shredded limb from limb. Even the spider-like devils, sturdy against bullets, crumble before cannon fire. Then come the flying beasts, only to be swatted down by ground defenses already waiting for them. The high-tier devil pushes forward, but even he can't withstand the storm. Explosions and constant fire hold him back until dawn begins to break. By morning, the enemy is completely wiped out, with only a few survivors retreating. Watching the devils flee, Agatha beams like a child, realizing victory is theirs. Not long after, the knights prepare dozens of long-range artillery pieces, aimed to devastate Tequila ruins even further. It's a wish Agatha begged Iron Axe to fulfill. With her and the Witch Alliance present, they'll witness the destruction of Tequila with their own eyes. Phyllis apologizes to Agatha for once looking down on humans, back when Agatha worked with them 400 years ago. Now she finally understands the true potential they had always underestimated. With artillery ropes in their hands, Agatha and the witches pull the triggers, unleashing a massive barrage that tears Tequila apart. With the Divine Stone destroyed, Sylvie regains her vision. Now begins the second phase of the plan, ambush time. Sylvie, Andrea, and their crew prepare to strike. After 5 long days of waiting, the crucial moment has arrived. One of the girls already dreams about celebrating with dumplings and the best food in the world once this is over. Camilla, being the serious and sincere one, reminds them to focus on the mission first. They'll have plenty of time to eat later. Even Andrea notices how strict Camilla is acting, though she herself is secretly salivating while trying to keep a straight face. Suddenly, a thunderous roar of a monster erupts across the area. Turns out, it's a skeletal creature that got struck by a cannonball, blowing a massive hole through its back. Hearing those excruciating screams of the wounded monster, Ash realizes that these grotesque creatures can feel pain too, even though they look like empty vessels, with no trace of life or consciousness. Sylvie then suddenly reports that red mist is leaking out of the skeletal monster, right where it was hit by the cannonball. The Devil Slayer is also heading toward the location. But then, the devil abruptly retreats instead of entering the battlefield. Even the skeleton begins to retreat. Some of the devils even try to stop it, but they end up getting crushed beneath the behemoth's weight. To everyone's shock, the devils are seemingly fighting each other, with the Magic Slayer devil already making its escape from Tequila. It's finally Andrea's chance to ambush that bastard and take it down with a single strike. Grabbing her sniper rifle, she narrows her aim through the dense foliage of the forest and finally manages to pinpoint the devil. Thankfully, the devil seems unaware of Andrea's presence and is flying straight in a certain direction. Its position is slightly eastward, but it's still within rifle range, making the conditions ideal for a shot. After loading a special bullet into the rifle, Andrea focuses and locks onto her target once again before pulling the trigger. The bullet bursts out of the nozzle and Andrea is pushed backward by the sheer recoil of the gun. Thankfully, Ash quickly jumps behind her, saving her from crashing onto her back. She then quickly questions the woman if the devil has been dealt with. Andrea focuses again, noticing that the bullet still hasn't reached its target. As the bullet inches closer, the devil finally realizes it's been ambushed. Seeing that terrifying glint in the devil's eyes sends chills down Andrea's spine. Eventually, the bullet finds its mark, piercing straight through the devil's chest and obliterating it into countless pieces like a piñata. With Andrea confirming the eliminated target, the other girls burst with joy, and Ash pats the noblewoman for her exceptional job. Ash then calls Lightning and orders her to tell Siegel to retreat, since the objective has already been achieved. Seems like Tilly didn't even get the chance to play her role, as the target was eliminated too quickly. Meanwhile, Andrea can't shake off the image of that devil's glare, wondering if it was directed at her. She can't understand how the devil could sense her from such a massive distance. She's certain Sylvie must have seen those disgusted eyes too. Likely, Sylvie just thought it was a coincidence the devil happened to look in their direction and didn't dwell on it. But since the devil's already dead, Agatha also feels it's pointless to indulge in meaningless thoughts. With the devil defeated, Andrea assumes that the scar Ash received from that devil should start healing within a few minutes. After feeling the scar, Ash senses no sign of recovery. That can only mean one thing: the devil isn't dead. Sylvie realizes it too, but a little too late. She still warns them as soon as she can about the threat heading their way. Ash moves swiftly, trying to block the incoming strike with her massive sword, but the attack still manages to hit the witch standing behind her, pinning her against a nearby tree. The bastard is still alive, and pretty pleased to have finally found their team. The witch, Margie, who took the brunt of the hit, coughs painfully in the background. The devil, on the other hand, praises Ash for her quick reflexes and great strength. If it weren't for her deflecting that blow, the injured girl would have died instantly. With the ponytailed witch down, they can't retreat anymore. She was the only one capable of using arc magic to move them around. Meanwhile, the devil points a finger at Sylvie, accusing her poor eyesight for leading the devil's downfall in this battle. It also recognizes Andrea as the one who fired that shot and commends her for her ruthless precision. Now that so many prominent and powerful figures are gathered here representing humanity, the devil introduces itself as Ezruluk, commander of this expeditionary force, the one responsible for executing everyone present. Turns out, while Andrea and her crew were playing checkers, this devil was playing chess. It had orchestrated an elaborate setup to lure everyone to this exact spot, succeeding by projecting a fake illusion of itself. What's even more unsettling is that the devil isn't making any move to finish them off. It's just talking. That only makes Andrea more curious about its true motives. Recalling Ash's past encounter with this creature, they all know that defeating it completely is out of the question. The best they can do now is stall for time. Not to mention, Andrea has already used up 50% of her magic power. As for Sylvie, Camilla, and Margie, they barely have any offensive abilities left. She hopes Lightning will arrive soon, since she was supposed to be here already. Her absence likely means she sensed something unusual. To buy some time, Andrea starts a conversation, questioning how this bastard even traveled all the way here so fast. After all, before she took the shot, she and her team had scanned the surroundings, and there wasn't a single target in a 9-kilometer radius. The devil explains that they've dug numerous tunnels behind Tequila and near the Godstone mining area, making them nearly impossible to detect. These branching paths are buried deep underground, so it's no surprise the team overlooked them entirely. Their constant surveillance of the area without realizing the trap had only led them right into it. Andrea then presses further, asking how he even found their position. The devil smugly replies that it's not that he found them, it's that they found him. In simpler terms, anyone who tries to watch him ends up exposing themselves. Naturally, this shocks Andrea, since that's exactly how the thousand-eyed devil tracks its targets, though she still doesn't understand how that giant, many-eyed monster managed to appear in the sky. Perhaps the decoy she shot down earlier was directly linked to that multiple-eyed devil, but these thoughts can wait. The real concern now is that the devils had been waiting for this ambush, with their reinforcements already in place. Just then, a barrage of bullets shoots toward the devil, triggering a massive explosion. Sylvie feels a flicker of hope, the divine punishment witches have finally arrived. While Betty wears a smug grin, ready to take control of the situation, Andrea grimly warns her about the danger ahead. The devil raises a finger, signaling the hidden spider devils to begin their assault. Almost immediately, a flurry of spears appeared in the air, raining down on the group. Andrea, using the last of her strength, summons a massive shield, only for the devil to shatter it effortlessly with a single gesture. It likely used its anti-magic ability to pull this off, leaving the team completely exposed to the oncoming barrage. The divine punishment witches leap in front of Andrea and the others, acting as shields to protect them. Still, Andrea gets a spear lodged deep into her thigh. The plan has fallen apart. They must regroup and retreat west. Any further delay will mean everyone's death. But the punishment witch reminds her that the First Army's forward rendezvous point is to the south. Unfortunately, that route has already been compromised by the enemy, so the forest to the west remains their only escape route. Suddenly, a swarm of mad devils appears, and the divine punishment witches start gunning them down one after another. Ash tosses a magic cube to Andrea, who immediately reports their situation back to base camp. Carried by Divine Witch, Andrea begins retreating while tasking Ash to hunt down and eliminate the two spider devils ambushing them. Before leaving, Ash tells her friend to warn Tilly to move out immediately without wasting any time. Riding on the divine punishment witch's back, Andrea grabs the witch's gun and starts firing with one arm, striking down devils in their path. Meanwhile, Ash faces off against the main devil, who dashes straight toward Andrea. Sylvie shouts a warning, and the divine witch intercepts the attack, taking the full blow. Betty raises her shotgun and unloads a barrage of bullets, forcing the devil backward. Though the damage inflicted is substantial, the devil heals instantly, much to Sylvie's utter shock. The torn flesh threads itself back together, reforming completely. The devil's lackey soon arrives, carrying another canister filled with red mist. As the devil consumes it, he smugly boasts about the new healing abilities he gained after ascension. He mocks them, believing they're only delaying the inevitable. If they stop resisting, he might grant them painless deaths. Of course, Betty refuses to kneel before a devil, even if it means dying 1,000 times. Meanwhile, Andrea watches in horror as the divine punishment witch struggles after taking those devastating injuries. The noblewoman, trembling, asks her why she bothered saving her life. The wounded witch simply smiles and says that dying on the battlefield is the only purpose of their existence, and if her sacrifice can keep Andrea's potential from going to waste, then it's worth it. She tells the crying noblewoman not to mourn someone whose only goal was to die in battle. With those final profound words, she passes away right there. Now we cut to Ash and the devil clashing head-on. It's clear that Ash is struggling against this powerhouse of a foe, while the devil taunts her relentlessly. While struggling, Ash suddenly recalls Phyllis's valuable words. If she truly wants to win, she must have a tangible goal and an unwavering will. Every warrior recorded in the Alliance who achieved transcendence did so through their insatiable hunger to reach their purpose. At that moment, Maggie and Lightning arrive on the battlefield, effortlessly taking down the mad devils like they're nothing more than mannequins. The high-tier devil, enraged by their interference, instantly lunges toward them. It is then Ash gathers every ounce of energy into her blade. With a blinding flash of brilliance, she unleashes a single slash, cutting the high-tier devil clean in half, like slicing through a cake. Exhausted by the immense power output, Ash immediately orders Lightning to retreat. But she isn't asking because the enemy poses a threat, it's because she herself has become one. She's losing control over her own powers. Without hesitation, Maggie grabs the injured survivors, and the two retreat together. Maggie can't help but wonder how Ash is channeling such immense power without using any divine will sigils. Lightning has the same question, and even worse, Ash's power seems to have surpassed transcendence itself. Back on the battlefield, Ash feels the brutal recoil from the energy she unleashed. If she can't strike again soon, the devil will surely retaliate. Just then, the high-tier devil's lackey steps forward, not to fight, but to announce that he's returning to the origin of magic and can no longer follow. Ash stares in disbelief, seeing the devil still alive despite being sliced in two. The devil reveals that he hasn't fully ascended yet. After being split apart, he can't complete his ascension without assistance. When the lackey asks what kind of help he needs, the devil coldly demands his life. Shockingly, the junior doesn't hesitate. He willingly offers himself as a sacrifice, believing that if their race wins the divine will battle, they'll finally escape the cage of fate and reach the untouched skies. Once the high-tier devil gives his assurance about their certain victory, the lackey rips out the stone from his own head and embeds it into his master's chest. As the devil fuses with the new soul he's just consumed, Ash begins charging yet another divine attack. The power surging within her blade is so immense that its glow can be seen for miles. Meanwhile, the devil's body completely regenerates, and their powers clash once again, leaving the entire area shaking from the sheer impact. Though the attack fails to harm him, the devil still acknowledges Ash's prowess, praising her as one of humanity's greatest geniuses. For a race with such limited lifespan, reaching this level of strength is, in his words, a truly commendable feat. Still, the devil boasts that humans can't possibly match someone who's lived long enough to fight in 2 divine will wars. After flattering himself a bit more, the bastard lunges forward, ready to end Ash's life once and for all. The two collide in an explosive exchange of raw strength, leaving trails of divine and dark energy behind. After clashing for a while, both pause to catch their breath and share a mid-battle exchange. By now, even the devil realizes that Ash has no control over her overwhelming power. It's the direct consequence of merging with the origin of magic. Though she's attained power far beyond normal comprehension, that same power is devouring her from within. There are only two possible outcomes left for Ash. Either she'll be burned to ashes by the magic she wields, or she'll become a mindless monster. Naturally, Ash refuses to accept any of the outcomes, much to the devil's amusement. He finds her hopeless determination quite laughable. As he continues to ramble, Ash makes her move, trying to create an opportunity to strike the bastard. The bastard ducks backward and retaliates with a sharp punch that pierces right through her chest. Meanwhile, Agatha receives the bad news about Ash's condition. Since transcendent witches usually go through ascension during battles, Agatha assumes Ash must be experiencing the same phase. And if she truly ascends, then even a magic slayer devil wouldn't pose much of a threat to her. But Lightning seems more worried about that high-tier devil, wondering if devils also undergo ascension during battle. As far as Agatha can recall, there's no record in the Alliance that supports such a claim. And from what Roland has witnessed in his dream world, devils need to successfully fuse with high-quality magic stones to strengthen themselves. Still, there's a possibility that combat itself also plays a critical role in their advancement. Fusing magic stones can be compared to a witch's coming-of-age trial. That trial determines whether a witch can properly wield the magic she possesses, and if she holds too much magic within her, it can destroy her. Similarly, if a devil's stone fusion fails, it can lead to a devastating rebound. The reason Lightning brought this up is because she's worried about Ash. Agatha reassures her that transcendent combat isn't ability-based, and if the Demon Slayer's anti-magic tactics fail, then the outcome of this battle is all too predictable. Suddenly, Lightning hears a series of unpleasant explosions booming in the distance, deepening her concern. She's anxious for Ash and asks when Princess Tilly's reinforcements will arrive. Agatha assures her that the reinforcements are currently loading combat equipment onto the Seagulls. It'll likely take 10 to 15 minutes for them to reach the high-tier devil's location. Of course, 15 minutes is far too long for Lightning to just sit back and do nothing. She quickly instructs Maggie to escort the injured to the rendezvous point southeast of the Tequila Ruins. As for Lightning, we already know what she's planning. Cutting back to Ash, the devil's hand is still lodged inside her chest, while a divine aura radiates around her body. It's actually Ash who refuses to let go of the bastard's hand. She knows she must hold this monster off for at least 15 minutes. Only then will their plan succeed. The devil extends several dark and twisted tentacles that pierce into Ash's body, the pain so excruciating it's unlike anything she's ever felt. It's as if countless fine needles are threading through her blood vessels straight into her brain. If it weren't for her sheer willpower to stay conscious, she would have blacked out already. The devil, meanwhile, is enjoying every second of it, tormenting her for fun. This bastard is actually trying to take control of Ash's magic. He can only imagine how much stronger he'll become after devouring her. Ash is doing everything she can not to fall into this bastard's control. His back starts to deform and bulge out grotesquely for some reason. Ash keeps resisting, earning mocking compliments from the ugly creature once again. He believes all her resistance is meaningless. To him, all these human ideals, faith, perseverance, relentlessness, are nothing but excuses of the weak. As he continues consuming her, his body keeps deforming. His influence is about to reach Ash's head when Lightning suddenly shows up, clutching a handful of grenades. Without hesitation, she hurls them straight at the devil's back. The explosion rips through the air, with shards tearing into the bulging mass on the devil's back, bursting it open like a balloon. It's the perfect chance for Ash to force the devil's tentacles out of her body, and she doesn't waste a second doing it. All this time, the devil had been underestimating humans. Now it's Ash's turn to look down on this ugly monster. Our girl unleashes one final divine light attack, obliterating the beast on the spot, making it evaporate into thin air. Injured Lightning walks up to her brute friend. Ash, despite her wounds, feels proud of Lightning's last-minute intervention that led to their victory. But that brief smile soon twists into shock when Lightning notices Ash disintegrating, starting from her hands. Ash has clearly accepted her fate and shows no regret. It's the price she has to pay for the power she used. When someone sets their eyes on a goal they're willing to reach, magic guides them toward it. But when one demands more power than they're meant to wield, there's always a cost. She speaks a few cryptic words before her body fades away completely, leaving not a trace behind. With the battle finally over, we fast forward a few days. Roland receives the good news of their victory. However, the heavy losses they suffered dull any sense of celebration. After ordering Sister Leaf to return and rest for a few days, he ends the call. When Nightingale asks about the war's outcome, Roland confirms their victory. The First Army has successfully captured Tequila with minimal losses and discovered a half-built Mist Tower base in the Godstone Mine. Although the ambush plan failed, the Magic Slayer Devil has been confirmed dead. With the devil gone, the curse that plagued Lightning and Sister Leaf is finally lifted. But their victory came at the cost of two witches, Elena and Ash. For reference, Elena was the divine punishment witch who sacrificed herself to save Andrea. Of course, even Nightingale isn't thrilled about the outcome. It is reported that Ash became something way beyond transcendent and perished alongside the devil. Nothing remained at the scene except a small, melted sword hilt. Ash may have been arrogant and prideful, but she was always dead serious about every choice she made. The same goes for Elena. They had both long accepted this fate, which is why Nightingale doesn't want Roland to feel responsible. A knock sounds at the door, and in walks Tilly with a gloomy face. She wastes no time and hugs her brother tightly, bursting into tears. Her embrace grows firmer as she lets her emotions pour out. Her tears flow uncontrollably until she's completely drained and can barely stand. Roland gently lays her on the sofa and asks Anna to stay by her side. Anna understands, promising to remain with her until the veil of sadness and guilt finally lifts. As for Roland, he plans to return to the third border city for a few days. He's been staying there since the war began anyway. A few more days won't hurt. Besides, news of Operation Torch's victory should reach the third border soon. Anna gives him a gentle kiss for luck before he departs. Before he leaves, she insists he take Nightingale with him. They can't risk anything happening to him now. At the third border city, Pasha meets Roland and his crew right at the door. The girl immediately asks about the results of the war, and he delivers the good news. The devils on the plains have been wiped out, and the Magic Slayer devil has been taken care of. Now Tequila is under the control of the First Army. Pasha is so thrilled to hear this that she can hardly believe it. She rushes inside to share the news with her comrades. Inside the chamber, all the Alliance members gather to hear the announcement directly from Roland himself. As soon as the witches hear the outcome, they burst into joyous celebration, tears of happiness glistening in their eyes. Alethea steps forward and sincerely apologizes to Roland for the times she spoke to him in a condescending tone. From this moment forward, she declares, he is the sole ruler of Tequila, and all the witches now stand under his command. Roland then finally moves on to the sad part, the death of Elena. But the Tequila witches don't appear particularly remorseful. After all, they had long been prepared for this outcome. The ambush squad was deliberately surrounded by devils. If this had been during the era of the Alliance, survival would have been next to impossible. So in this case, the losses are far outweighed by the gains. While it may sound strange to a mortal like Roland, death is a concept deeply normalized among them. The only thing that truly pains them is dying meaninglessly. They gave up their bodies long ago just to live for this day. As for Elena, she made that choice willingly, sacrificing her life for their cause. So, there's nothing for Roland to worry about. The witches are content knowing they pushed the devils back. Back in the border town, we see the First Army marching through the streets, finally returning from war. The citizens cheer and rejoice for the heroes who brought them victory. As for those who gave their lives in battle, they've been laid to rest with full honor. Among the many tombs lies one for Elena and Ash, marked by Ash's sword, a symbol of her courage and warrior spirit. Iron Axe and the others pay their respects to the fallen, ensuring they receive the honor they deserve. Cutting back to Roland's office, he orders Old Man Barav to summon all ministers. There are new directives to deliver. We then cut to the Devil's Den, where a dark, edgy figure lounges on a massive throne. He isn't alone. Surrounding him is a full-blown council of high-ranking devils, all staring at a gigantic, multi-eyed tower demon. The one leading the council begins by reminding everyone why they've been assembled. A female devil among them, along with the others, expresses curiosity about the Ascender who recently reached the realm of consciousness. The Ascender's awakening sent ripples strong enough to be felt even here, but soon after, those ripples vanished without a trace. They believe the one behind them was Ezra Luke, the high-tier devil Ash killed, commander of the Western Front Vanguard. Everyone demands to know what exactly happened in the West. The council leader admits there's no pride in declaring Ezra Luke dead, a statement that clearly irritates the female demon. Before humans grow too arrogant after killing one of their high-tier brethren, she insists they must be wiped out. Meanwhile, in Neverwinter, Roland holds a council meeting of his own, this one filled with ministers from every government department. Roland begins by acknowledging that they're all aware of Operation Torch, a campaign that lasted nearly 10 months, and that they finally reaped its rewards. With this victory, Neverwinter's reach now extends deep into the fertile plains hundreds of kilometers away, and the devil threat has been completely eradicated. From this moment onward, the western lands will no longer be the treacherous, perilous wastelands they once were, but a vast, fertile territory capable of supplying endless resources. The plains, stretching farther than the combined lands of the Four Kingdoms, will serve as Neverwinter's main direction of expansion for the next 100 years. Currently, the only thing Roland needs is more resources, and by resources he means people. Neverwinter's population has been growing steadily, and now stands at 200,000, but he intends to increase that growth rate significantly. Barov will oversee the entire population expansion initiative. After outlining these objectives, Roland decides to head to the factories with Anna to begin the trials for the Magic Cube steam engine prototype. In the underground bunker, we see a functioning prototype powered by the Magic Cubes Celine produced. With a countdown of 3, Roland pulls the lever, activating the engine. The machine rumbles to life, gears turning until the wheel begins to spin. With this invention, Roland is confident that their current industrial revolution will soon become obsolete. To be honest, even the people from his previous world hadn't achieved this level of efficiency that these 5th-generation steam engines promise to deliver. In the following days, we cut to Lightning and Maggie, busy scouting the area as usual. Just as Lightning reports no signs of danger, Maggie suddenly rushes back with terrible news. The two quickly take cover as a massive rift tears open in the sky. From the rift descends the same devil who was leading the earlier council. He's performing some strange ritual, one they can't comprehend. Lightning decides to retreat and report to the Tequila Witches. It's clear now that these mountains aren't the untouched paradise they once thought. We then cut back to Roland, now holding another meeting, but this time with Agatha and the others. Reports have come in of red mist appearing over the northern mountain peaks, right where the divine stone mines are located. Agatha admits it's Tequila's fault for never managing to destroy those mines, but Roland reassures her that the rise of high-ranking devils and their constant evolution over the past 4 centuries has made them increasingly difficult to combat. So there is nothing for her to blame. Agatha then goes on to explain the gravity of the situation. Based on the Alliance's accumulated research and the mine's location, the red mist produced by those obelisk towers could easily cover a vast radius around the mountains. That mine is filled with divine stones waiting to be harvested, an advantage the devils could exploit. Taking this into account, Roland points out that they have very little time to prepare a countermeasure. He then turns to Iris and asks for the General Staff's input. Well, the General Staff indeed has come to a conclusion. The ridge of the continent is a good hiding place, but the demons couldn't launch an effective attack from there. This gives Neverwinter some much-needed time to prepare for the counter-offensive. The General Staff believes that if the demons appear in the Kingdom of Everwinter, then Grey Castle can no longer serve as the line of defense. Roland orders her to have the General Staff draft a proposal based on the assumption that the farthest the red mist could spread is the Cage Mountain. The third battle of divine will determine the fate of mankind, and it's finally right around their necks. The victory in the Tequila War has proven that Neverwinter has the potential to win, despite the miserable defeat humanity suffered 400 years ago. For now, he wants everyone to give their absolute best and win this war at all costs. After the meeting, Roland turns to his sister, intending to have a little chat. What he's about to say might sound unbelievable, but he still wants her to know that Ash might still be alive. Naturally, Tilly is bewildered to hear this, just as Roland was when he first heard this absurd claim. He didn't want to tell her until he confirmed it himself, but he doesn't want to regret it later either. Tilly guesses Ash's condition might be connected to the dream world somehow. Well, Roland isn't entirely sure, but he'll explain everything once he gets to the bottom of it. We then cut to Roland walking somewhere inside the dream world. As he steps into enemy territory, spotlights focus on him, and the atmosphere erupts in clamor and applause. The one entertaining Roland is a man with long white hair. He urges Roland to loosen up, assuring him that no one here intends to take his life. This freak show claims to have just arrived in this world and requires little Roland's help. He introduces himself as Alpha, a messenger of the gods, the same gods humans of this world call erosion. Roland accuses this clown of invading Prism City, but Alpha argues that calling him an invader isn't exactly correct, since he's merely here to deliver the god's message. Before returning, he wants Roland to know that these so-called martial artists are doomed to fail. Instead of succumbing to a terrible fate, he proposes that all martial artists pledge allegiance to the gods. He's sure Roland must have plenty of questions, but promises to satisfy his curiosity later. He even offers our boy power if he accepts the proposal, claiming he can inject that power directly into his body to make him stronger. Roland then questions the consequences of refusal. In that case, Alpha warns that every martial artist will become monsters. These creatures may be slightly weaker, but are absolutely obedient. It's now up to Roland to choose. Accept and gain immense power, and a chance to learn the truth of the world, or refuse and become a puppet without consciousness. Suddenly, Roland receives a telepathic message from his witches that they're ready. Confidently, Roland plays a reverse Uno card. Since he's the creator of this world, he feels entitled to make everyone here bend to his will. So he gives this bastard 2 choices instead. The first, hand over all his cores voluntarily. The second, get killed and have his cores taken by force. Alpha acts smug, thinking Roland has no ground to negotiate since he's alone. Or at least that's what the bastard thinks, until the girls appear, cloaked like assassins. While Alpha's lackeys are busy flattering their master's strength, the witches start knocking them out one by one. Without holding back, they unleash pure havoc. A few days later, we cut back to the real world, where Roland is snapped back by a knight delivering urgent news. Thunder has returned from the Maelstrom Sea with a major problem that needs attention. A while later, Thunder meets His Majesty. Before starting the discussion, Roland offers him a glass of chilled, turbulent drink, because seeing the greatest adventurer who ever lived this tense just doesn't feel right. But Thunder emphasizes that things have gone south fast, with frequent encounters involving sea ghouls. Not only that, there are even more terrifying monsters lurking beneath the waves. Roland clarifies that the creatures he's referring to belong to the Sky-Sea realm, an entire civilization of a completely different breed of devils. Thunder explains the characteristics of these monsters. Built from flesh and bone, their skeletal structure shaped like arches. They have the ability to float on water like ships and dive deep into the ocean's depths. Roland recalls seeing similar creatures depicted in the divine artifact. He then asks how the fleet managed to escape danger. Turns out Thunder and his crew got lucky. Those monsters were caught in an internal conflict, giving them the chance to flee. Roland then asks the great adventurer whether he still intends to keep his identity hidden. His Majesty remembers Thunder wanting to acknowledge Lightning after this expedition and revealing the truth to her. Since this expedition didn't yield any results, and knowing now that the Sky Sea realm holds most of the ocean under its rule, Roland regretfully announces that Thunder won't be able to embark on new adventures for quite some time. Right now, His Majesty wants to focus mainly on fighting the devils. And since Lightning also wishes to see her father alive, this might be the best time for him to reveal himself to her. Thunder isn't entirely sure if he should do this, and needs time to think it over. We then cut to Hunter Iron Axe, stationed atop one of the watchtowers, observing the devils occupying the nearby land. A soldier suddenly arrives to report the successful delivery of goods from Neverwinter, and the goods they speak of are explosives. With the plan ready, Iron Axe gives the command to detonate the TNT planted in the devil's current base. As soon as a soldier triggers it, a massive explosion erupts inside Fang City, obliterating the devils occupying it. Inside the city, the high-tier devil we saw earlier in the council rushes to the blast site, only to find his kin burned to a crisp. The big shot orders his lackey, Todorok, to scout the human army's movements and report even the slightest signs of activity. He also instructs Ziasis to investigate what happened here and search for any survivors. The high-tier devil isn't pleased with the idea that this might be yet another troublesome human invention. We then cut to our airbase, where all the war aircraft are lined up, ready to take to the skies. It turns out Tilly plans to bring all her trainee pilots along for this mission. The only thing these cadets lack is theoretical knowledge, and wasting a month teaching that now makes no sense. She can teach them theories any time after this mission. With that, she climbs into her plane, and as she takes off, the cadets follow her lead, soaring through the skies in perfect synchronization. Along with the pilots, there are also many others whose hearts are fully devoted to the Northern War. Even though they come from different kingdoms and regions, they act in unity for a common cause. This united movement could completely turn the tide in the battle of divine will, for humanity has never been so united in any of the previous 2 divine wars. We then cut back to the high-tier devil, performing his dark ritual and summoning a massive portal. From it emerges a devil so powerful he might as well be a Super Saiyan level 2, here to announce that the army is ready. The big shot makes their objective clear: kill everyone on this island and seize the land. The red devil roars in dominance, and countless devil soldiers pour out of the portal, marching straight toward the island. A quarter of an hour passes since the start of the war, and the enemy has already captured the inner city. The strange thing is, they haven't encountered a single human. The place is completely deserted. Many unfinished buildings stand across the city, and judging by their condition, they were erected only recently. This indicates that Duke Island was abandoned just a few days ago. Then comes the twist. The entire Duke Island erupts in a massive explosion. Shock waves ripple across the sea, and a fiery mushroom cloud climbs into the sky. Before the high-tier devil can even process what's happening, he spots ships sailing across the sea, and on one of them stands Lightning. The bastard conjures a portal near the ships to get a closer look at the enemy. Seeing the nearby portal, Lightning charges forward and headbutts the bastard at lightning speed after charging right through the portal he created. That single headbutt sends the devil plummeting down, with no one left to save or even catch him. We then cut to Roland inside his dream realm, speaking with a woman named Valkyries. His Majesty is here to negotiate with this horned woman, hoping that being the creator of this world will give him leverage. He insists she introduce herself properly, with her title and rank. The woman replies, calling herself the Nightmare Lord. Roland slides her a photo of a familiar woman, asking if she has seen her, the treacherous divine messenger. But the horned woman seems clueless about who this person is. However, she suspects that the divine messenger once mentioned by her mentor might indeed be this woman. Hearing the word mentor, Roland grows curious and asks about this person. The woman names her mentor as Thousand Forms Sistarless. The moment she speaks that name, something clicks in Roland's mind. During the Alliance's Three Kings Oath meeting, he recalls the portrait on the wall, which likely depicted the same high-ranking devil, Sistarless. Turns out, this devil Sistarless had ascended thrice, giving her the ability to transform into a human. In ancient times, she was the one who bridged both devils and humans, and bestowed human knowledge to her kind. Roland quickly urges the horned woman to help him win this battle of divine will. She isn't sure if he can even win the war at all, but His Majesty expresses his confidence. He could surely take victory, if only he had another 100 years to prepare. Even if the devils hide beneath the Blackstone Tower, humans will annihilate them like roaches. But Roland doesn't have the luxury of time. The Divine Messenger's warning means the threat is already looming over their heads. He must reach the Bottomless Realm as soon as possible, and to make that journey possible, he needs her help. There's barely any time left to waste. If he misses the chance to end this war, there will be no undoing the catastrophe that's upon them. Since the woman is reluctant to help, Roland reminds her that she doesn't have many options either. Either the war will drag on, causing immeasurable loss, or both races will face complete annihilation. There is no middle ground. That's how it's always been in every divine war, but Roland believes this time can be different. If both sides can hold dialogue and shift their perspective, there might still be hope for both races. The The scene then cuts to the devils once again holding a council meeting. A red-haired devil accuses his fellow, Haikazuode, of constantly screwing things up on the Western Front. Haikazuode, the same guy who got headbutted by lightning. His fellows don't understand why that front even requires the king's attention. When one of the high-tier devils, known as Valkyries, lost consciousness, Haikazuode only reported it directly to the king. And now, feeling threatened by mere humans, he's gone as far as to call a holy seat meeting. By the way, did you notice? They mentioned Valkyries. Isn't that the same person Roland is currently negotiating with? Things are getting complicated, but hopefully, we'll soon learn exactly how the real world connects to the dream world. Then, the king himself speaks up, telling the others to stop objecting to Haikazuode. After all, there must be a solid reason for this meeting. It's only natural they hear him out before passing judgment. Haikazuode agrees and states that he's here to request greater assistance on the Western Front. This time, he's not asking for a few troops. He wants something far more powerful, the God-made god. A female devil immediately objects, reminding him of the immense importance of the God-made gods. They are the ultimate masterpieces of their race's ascension. It took nearly 100 years and countless resources to achieve this miracle. They represent a leap forward in the devil's mastery of magic, the only weapon capable of destroying the Sky-Sea realm. So wasting such a precious resource on something as trivial as humans makes no sense. Since devils can't survive without red mist, the God-made god is their only trump card against the Sky-Sea realm. Sending it to the Eastern Front takes far more priority. It could save tens of millions of lives, something they simply can't risk losing. Then another devil woman chimes in, wondering why in the hell they suddenly feel the need to go all out against humans when they're nothing more than pests. Haikazuode doesn't feel thrilled to reveal the constant failures they have encountered on the Western Front. Although the devils still occupy the territories of two major human kingdoms, they no longer have enough strength to expand further. This stalemate means it will be very difficult for the devils to obtain the legacy shard anytime soon, which in essence is no different from failure. One of the devil women grows irritated after realizing that reinforcements numbering in 6 digits have already been sent to the Western Front, and yet there are still no satisfactory results. For a moment, they suspect that Haikazuode might be trying to deceive everyone. After all, he used to claim that conquering the Western Front wouldn't be difficult, and that everything was proceeding smoothly. Not to mention the entire region has already been covered under the red mist, so taking it over should have been a breeze. In his defense, Haikazuode brings up Esruluk's warnings before his death, though he admits he didn't take them seriously back then. He understands everyone's frustration and refuses to make excuses, but he urges them to see the truth for themselves. The multi-eyed devil focuses his gaze on the Western Front, only to witness fighter planes, RPGs, guns, and every kind of advanced warfare machinery Roland has built so far. One of the female devils refuses to believe what she's seeing, but Haikazuode insists it's the truth. Human strength can no longer be measured by the small number of witches they possess. Even the non-magic users have become a threat. Armed with such weaponry, these non-magic users are no longer the weak primitive animals they once were. They now pose a danger equivalent to high-ranking ascendants. Once again, the devils seethe with anger, but Haikazuode reminds them that blaming him won't solve anything. The failure of the Western Front is already a foregone conclusion, an unavoidable fact. If they don't act soon, then within 10 years, humans will become just as undefeatable as the Sky-Sea realm. The final outcome will be the total annihilation of the devil race, cornered from both front and rear. He fails to understand why the God-made god is worth taking such a massive loss over. Still, one of the arrogant devils refuses to believe him. To back his words, Haikazuode says he has someone who can vouch for him, and this time, he's not talking about Esruluk. He's referring to the Nightmare Lord, Valkyries. He doesn't know what clues Valkyries discovered in the consciousness realm that made her abandon the front lines and dive back into that world, but she hinted at the doom awaiting their race. According to her, humans might have inherited some sort of ancient legacy. Once again, the chamber dismisses it as nonsense, lacking any substantiated evidence. From what I can gather, they're likely referring to Roland's dream world as the realm of consciousness, the same place where the devil met him earlier. Anyway, Haikazuode wants them to understand that humans have somehow been favored by fate, and the proof is right in front of them. Still, the council refuses to deploy the God-made god against mere insects like humans. That's when one of the big booba devil women silences the room and announces her final plan. Their silent calamity project will proceed as planned. They'll reinforce the Western Front, and once the God-made god is complete, they'll seize the legacy shard from humanity. Furthermore, she orders that the Eastern Front be shrunk southward, even if it means abandoning certain cities to reduce unnecessary losses of ordinary demons. Originally, their grand strategy for the Third Battle of Divine Will was to attack the Sky-Sea realm in the east, while simultaneously swallowing humanity in the west. But now, diverting the God-made god to the Western Front has greatly increased the expected casualties in the east. And for those losses, Haikazuode, the Lord of the Sky Dome will take full responsibility. Though he's an important asset, that doesn't mean his repeated failures can be overlooked. This is his final chance to prove himself, otherwise, his doom will be permanent. The scene then cuts to a mountain range completely blanketed in thick red clouds. To get a clearer view of the area, our flying duo dash through the haze and finally locate the Devil's base. It turns out to be an island literally floating in the air. Soon, Roland receives a report about this creation of the Devils, the so-called God-made god. Roland claims to already know everything about it. After all, he's got his own special sources of information. He is likely referring to Valkyries in the dream world. First of all, this thing is almost immune to artillery fire, so the First Army should prioritize preserving its forces. The only ones capable of fighting the God-made god are the Sky Knights. They'll be the key to turning the tide. Roland does know of a possible way to defeat it, though the probability of success remains uncertain. But Tilly is optimistic. So long as they have a way to fight back, the odds don't matter. She's confident their collective efforts will make it happen, and she promises to return with good news once the mission's over. Roland also suggests she take Iris along and hands her a piece of paper. That paper turns out to be a formal declaration of war against the Devils. The scene then shifts to the Eastern Front, where one of the high-tier female Devils is fuming after being overwhelmed by the Sky Sea realm. Things have gotten so serious that even the Devil King himself demands to meet her. When the female devil finally meets her king, she tries to sugarcoat the situation, claiming that everything will soon be back under control. But the king already knows the truth. They've lost all the mist towers in the eastern region to the Sky Sea realm. It's only a matter of time before they're completely overrun. The king gives his final order: retreat from the eastern region and fall back to the Land of Dawn. For now, their sole focus must be defeating the humans and seizing the Legacy Shard before turning their attention back to the Sky Sea realm. The king has already fused himself with the core of the God-made god, becoming one with it. The female general accepts his command. In the following days, we see our squad of 3 Sky Knight soldiers arrive right above the God-made god in the fighter planes. As soon as they reach the floating island, they drop their nukes. Several flying devils spot the bombs descending and rush toward them to destroy them mid-air, but the Sky Knights mow them down with a barrage of bullets. Before the nukes hit, one of the knights recalls the warnings given before this suicidal mission. These bombs hold immense power, and the light they produce upon detonation is intense enough to cook anything alive. They were instructed to stay as far away from the blast radius as possible. In the present, the bombs hit the surface and detonate. Everything within range is obliterated. Seeing the Devil's final trump card vaporize like that, Sylvie is left speechless. What excites her even more is that all 3 suicidal bombers returned alive after successfully completing their mission. She immediately rushes to deliver the good news to Tilly. Upon hearing it, the princess feels proud of her students. It seems they've finally defeated the Devils. The scene then transitions back into the dream realm, and from here onward, things stop making sense. We see Lady Fei Yuhan working alongside Roland to further develop the dream world, which is now connected to Cradle. If you're wondering what Cradle is, it's basically a cloud storage system built by ancient tequila witches to upload their consciousness. Now that it's linked to the dream world, all witches can enter it too. The dream world is no longer just a temporary space existing in Roland's mind. It has evolved into a modern consciousness realm that Roland himself created, or discovered. Now all souls, memories, and mental entities, both ancient and modern, can coexist in one shared world under Roland's control. That's why, in one of the dream mansions, we see Nightingale and Anna together again. And that marks the end of our journey. The ending feels rushed. These are all the bits I managed to gather. And honestly, even I didn't fully understand what the hell happened. So yeah, thanks to everyone who stuck around till the very end. I really enjoyed telling this story, and I hope you guys enjoyed reading it just as much.